Hi guys, my name's Sincerely Osa. I'm back with another video. If you're new to my channel and you haven't seen my videos before, I upload funny lifestyle and beauty videos and I upload twice a week. So if you do want to subscribe, click the subscribe button here. So today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I have been seeing the storytime videos around and for ages actually. I didn't actually realise it was a thing until another YouTuber that I know and love suggested I do them, because I do talk about my life a lot, but I don't call them story time. So I should try and maybe make it into story time format so that people can understand it a bit more. So today we're going to be talking about something that I've mentioned in my videos before, like my life growing up and stuff. And obviously I feel like the last few years have been a really great few years of awareness for especially women and men who are plus size and who struggle with their weight, or who are kind of asking society to accept them for who they are. And I feel like society is moving forward in that direction, which is really great. And I don't know, it's been quite difficult because at the same time I love seeing plus size models and plus size bloggers and just plus size people being accepted more into pop culture. And at the same time, I feel like for me personally, in the Black society or Afro-Caribbean society, there's still a stigma on both. So there's a stigma for people who are overweight, and there's a heavy stigma as well for people who are underweight. And I just want to talk about my story, just growing up being underweight and being a size 0. Now, in terms of talking about where this story started, and my whole kind of perception of my size didn't really start until I was about 13. I didn't actually realise I was skinny or I was underweight until people pointed it out to me. And I'm sure that's exactly, I think I've heard one of my favourite plus size YouTubers, Gracie, say that as well, or she tweeted it, and she said you don't realise something negative about yourself until someone points it out to you, and then you're like, oh, this is a problem, that I was never aware of it. And it's only until someone tells you, because you don't fit into what they think is perfect or pretty. So yeah, I was about 13. Weirdly enough, I did experience quite a lot of bullying in school and also at church, because for an African child, your social groups are split into two. So it's church usually, school socializing, and then church. So you've got your church friends and your school friends, and I experienced bullying in both. I don't really know why till this day. I'm sure, I guess it's the same for everyone in some way, shape or form. For me in church, I was just not considered the pretty person. I think also it wouldn't have been that bad if my best friend at the time, she was really popular. She was really popular in church, and she was really pretty, and all the guys wanted to go out with her and stuff. All the guys wanted to go out with her and stuff. So obviously I was compared to her by default, because I was always with her. And I also wasn't allowed. Yeah, another thing, it's weird how you forget things because it's been such a long time, but for a long time that thing that you've forgotten was a way of life, if that makes sense. So I wasn't allowed to have my hair weaved. I wasn't allowed to have braids. I wasn't allowed to have my ears pierced. Makeup, no makeup, or trousers, and I wasn't really allowed to wear fashionable clothes. And my church that we went to kind of talked about these things as if they kind of made you more worldly and just more susceptible to being ungodly and being unrighteous and stuff like that. And it's weird though, because a lot of the kids at church had something. So they would have braids, or they'd have their ears pierced, or they'd have something. They wouldn't have skinny jeans and a weave and stuff, but they'd have a few things here and there, with their hair and stuff. But my parents were really strict about it, and they were just nope, 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 nope. So my hair was always in cornrows, and people just thought I was just very ugly looking. And for a long time I did actually believe I was ugly, but I'll probably do another video on that. So my self-esteem in terms of my outward beauty from church, from the people at church, was kind of diminished kind of from that. And then When I started school, I started secondary school and I started in a private school. I went to a private school for about a year and a half. Yeah, about a year and a half, and it was okay at first, but they're like, it's so crazy. Like, in a way, it's good and it's bad. Like, private school, the private school I went to, the like hierarchy, there was a serious hierarchy in school. Like, there was actually like a queen bee. The queen bee had a best friend. The queen bee's brother was hot, and he also had a hot best friend. It was crazy. And then like you'd have like the hot people, then you'd have like the prefects, then you'd have like the middle year people, and then you'd have like at the bottom your year sevens, and then you'd have like black people, which were like the bottom of the bottom, because it was a heavily white school. And I just remember someone saying to me, "Oh my gosh, you're so skinny! Like, you're so skinny." And it was to be fair, I knew it was coming from a place of slight jealousy, because the school I went to, it's so weird how like the difference between kind of like white culture and black culture. Like, in black culture, you being skinny, like being, I would say being a size 6 in black culture is like you're underweight, basically. Like, even if that your BMI is fine, they'd class you as being underweight. Whereas in white culture for such a long time, there was this whole thing of, you know, the white skinny model, which was the image of perfect beauty. And I feel like in my private school, a lot of girls were trying to attain that and they couldn't. This is going to be a long video. They were trying to attain that and some of them couldn't, because they're just not meant to be like that. Like, naturally, they just weren't meant to be a size 6 or a size 8. And I remember being in the changing rooms and someone saying to me, "Oh my gosh, you're so skinny." And I remember standing on the scales at home, and I think at that time I was about 6 stone. And I remember, like, it was weird really, because I didn't really go shopping for clothes myself that much, but it wasn't until like I tried a size 6 and it didn't fit. And I remember talking to someone, they were like, "Well, you'd probably, like, if it didn't fit, then you definitely fit a size 4. And a size 4 at that time in American size is a size 0. And at that time I was about 13, 14. I don't really remember having an eating problem or like a dangerous eating habit. I don't remember eating a lot, and for me, I think when I was stressed or when I was upset, I just wouldn't eat. And for years until I was 18, I didn't realize I was doing it. So if I'd come home and my dad would be like, "Oh, have you eaten?" If I was upset or if I wasn't in a good mood, I would be like, "Yeah, I've eaten," and I would skip a meal. And it's so weird even saying it now, because it's like, that's so dangerous. It's so dangerous. Even it's dangerous physically, and then it's dangerous mentally. And I just didn't realize I was doing it. And so I would be skipping meals. I would eat about twice a day. So I have a very fast metabolism, so I can eat quite a lot and still be hungry in about like 2 hours later, and like an hour and a half, 2 hours later. It's quite crazy. So that's part of the reason, obviously, that I'm so thin. I'm just naturally like that. So anyway, so I was about 13, and that's kind of where, like, inside my head, I was just like, "Oh, okay, am I too skinny? Am I too skinny?" So then I tried to like gain weight, and when I went to America, I remember just trying to eat a lot more, because obviously it's America and there's food available to you all the time. And I remember just always eating. And I got back home and I weighed myself, sorry, and I was still 6 stone. And I remember just struggling to gain weight. Like, I just couldn't for years. For about 5 years, I think after about 3 years I got to 7 stone, and then I was 7 stone for about 3 years after that. Like, my weight would just stay in one place. It wouldn't go up. Like, now when I think about it, it's so crazy, because I know I have friends who are a lot like curvier than me and who have slower metabolisms, and you know, their weight just, like, it can go up, it can go down, which to me seems quite normal. Like, surely after 2 weeks, if you eat loads, you should be able to gain weight. But for me, it just would not change, and it was really depressing, because I really just wanted to kind of not just fit in, but I realized I don't think I was abnormal, because I just think it's so ridiculous for a 13-year-old to have such pressures on their mind of how much they weigh, and what size they are and stuff like that. And I remember just at that time, just my weight was constantly on my mind, and I just hated like people taking pictures of my full body because my legs are like one of the last places that weight goes to for me. So my legs would just be really skinny, and my arms would be really skinny. Like even now, I'm still quite self-conscious about it. So after that, I moved from my private school. We moved house, and I moved from my private school to a public school, a state school basically. And when I moved to a state school, it just for the first 3 years, it was just the hardest time of my life. The school was very white again, but it wasn't white middle class, it was white working class. And there was just a lot of racism, and there was also a lot of like, oh my gosh, there's a word for it. It's like when there's subtle racism. There was so much subtle racism. And also, once again, I didn't fit in because like my hair was in cornrows, or it was in threads, if anyone remembers threads. I didn't have my ears pierced. I didn't really wear makeup. I had to wear like long skirts because like I wasn't allowed to wear trousers. People would ask why I wasn't wearing trousers in winter, and it was just like it was just annoying having to explain it all the time. And I think what ostracized me even more was the fact that I went to private school. So I think people thought that I was better than them or something, and I spoke a lot differently to them because they grew up in a different side of Essex to me. There weren't that many black people there. I think I could count the amount of black people on my hand, like in the whole school. Like, I mean, out of 600, 700 children. And then that changed later on. But at that point, it was just it was really hard because you're stuck, like, just feeling ostracized. And it was weird because I felt ostracized for being black, but then I also felt ostracized by the few black people there were because I was so skinny. And I mean, I don't think I was the skinniest person there. I do think that I was quiet back then. I was quite quiet, and maybe like my being quiet made it look like I was more susceptible to being teased and being bullied and stuff like that, because I didn't really know how to stand up for myself. It was a complete culture shift, and I'd never really had to kind of confront conflict, or maybe I'd never really been taught. But in the state school, like, you know, if you've been to a state school, it's literally like dog eat dog, and it sounds like a bad thing, but on another hand, it's a great thing because it kind of helps you be more assertive, and it helps you kind of stand up for yourself and become more independent. But anyway, back to the story. So, so there were a few black girls there, and I remember being friends with a few of them, but I don't know, I think I was just really bad at choosing friends. Like, that's one thing, I've just been really bad at choosing friends for quite a long period of my life. So the friends I did have were kind of like frenemies, so they were friends to me, but they would like talk behind my back and kind of make fun of me. They'd call me a skeleton, they'd call me anorexic, they'd call me bulimic. And it was a constant thing. It was like a running joke almost that I was bulimic, or like my bones were showing out of my body and stuff. And it didn't help that not didn't help, but I was a lot, puberty didn't really hit me as fast as everyone else. So where everyone else was getting curves and all of this stuff like super quickly, like it just took so long for me. Why do I feel like I'm about to cry? Oh my gosh. So like the white people didn't really understand me because I was black, and then I looked weird to them, so I was ostracized by them. And then the black girls kind of, they were, I mean, not all of them, but most of them, like, were very curvy, like, you know, like the stereotypical black female body, you know, the beautiful, like, waist that goes in, and then the booty, and then the boobs, and just a very curvaceous woman. A lot of the girls were kind of shaped like that, and I wasn't. And I think at that time, like, this was 2005, 2006, and at that time, like, in terms of pop culture, as I said, being skinny was in, and being curvy, like, you know, the whole Nicki Minaj thing, that was not fashionable until fashionable. I know that's sad that a body type is fashionable, but unfortunately that's kind of how the media see it. But it wasn't really in pop culture. It wasn't culturally relevant until like 2010. So that meant that a lot of the black girls, they were dealing with their own issues as well. Like, they were very self-conscious about their weight, and even though they were curvy, white people saw them as fat, so they felt fat. Like boys would verbally out, like literally go, "You're fat," to these black girls who were curvy, and then they'd kind of take all that self-doubt and low self-esteem and kind of throw that on other people. So if they saw a girl that was a lot skinnier than them, they would kind of put that negativity on them. So it's like everyone just throwing each other's prejudices and burdens onto each other, and I felt that a lot. So I remember there was just this one particular girl at my school, and she just hated me because of my weight. She just hated me. And at the time, I was just like, okay, I don't know where I fit in because I'm black, I look weird, I'm too skinny. And it was just, all I was focusing on was the negative stuff about me. I literally couldn't see anything good about myself for a very, very long time. I was also struggling with my subjects because it was such a change. Like in private school, you had to stand up when an adult walked in the room. That's what I mean, like the manners were so different. The classes were shorter, so I was really struggling to kind of like get to grips with some subjects and the teacher changes and everything. So I was just full of so much doubt. And then when I was in year 9, I feel like something clicked, and I think it's to do with a few things. Like one thing is that a lot more black people are coming into the school now, so I felt like even though a lot of those black people kind of mocked me and kind of talked about how weird my hair was and how ugly I was behind my back, I felt a certain safety because at least I had someone I could relate to that looked similar to me. It was a very racially hostile area. And so when I had like my people, as Wendy Williams likes to say, it kind of healed something in me. It made me feel like I wasn't the odd one out. Like it was very apparent that I did not look the same as these black people. I did not have weave. I did not have hair extensions. I didn't have earrings. I wasn't allowed to wear makeup, and that was very hard because as more black boys started to come to the school, the attention that other black girls got over me was just so different. Like especially when you're going through puberty, it's just such a confusing time, and I was constantly comparing myself to other girls. And I feel like year 9, when I was allowed to choose my subjects, oh my gosh, it all just makes sense now. When I was allowed to choose my subjects, I wouldn't say, oh yeah, I forgot that, you know, I was skinny and I forgot about my weight problems and I started eating more. It was a lot slower. It was a very slow process. But what did happen was when I chose the subjects to take for GCSEs, it showed me that I was more than just my weight. And it was such an organic process because, okay, I had my subjects that I had chosen, and then I realised, oh, I'm actually quite good at these subjects, and then I started like learning more about how to like refine my gifts and my talents, and that made me see that I had more to offer than, you know, the physical. And the more I kind of like learned to invest in myself, the more I realised that I had skills that other people didn't, and that made me different and that made me unique. And I remember being able to kind of like put together the first Black History musical in my school, and me and a group of friends organised it, and I was basically like the director, and I put together the script and organised the dance, the music, the acting, all that side of it. And I remember going to my head teacher and asking her when we can show it to the school, and I made sure everything was organised. And when that was done, and when all the teachers kind of like talked about how amazing it was, I just had this moment of kind of realisation that, okay, on the outside I may not be 100% happy with it, but I'm so much more on the inside, and perhaps what's on the inside is actually more important. And it was just that first time that clicked in me. And then that kind of progressed as I went on to year 10 and focused more on my subjects, and kind of I had time. It was weird because like focusing on those subjects and focusing on my gifts gave me time to realise why I was special, and it gave me time to make my skills better, and it was an amazing time. And I remember at year 11, it was almost like the last chapter of my low self-esteem in a sense. It was like it was just closing. It was like a book closing on itself. And the last thing that we did in year 11 is we had a prom, and I remember like putting together like my outfit and my hair, like getting ready for everything and reading makeup books. At that time there was no YouTube, And I never really imagined that I would be happy with how I looked. To me, it wasn't about being pretty. I wanted to look like the person on TV. Like, that's what I wanted to look like. And slowly but surely, by year 11, I just I was just happy with what I had, and I was happy to use makeup to enhance what I had. By year 11, so I went to prom, and I remember looking at myself in the mirror, and I was just shocked because I'd never seen myself with makeup and a gown and hair and everything. And I mean, I'm not saying everything's about looks, but there's something so special about being okay with how you look. You know, like, it's not about focusing on it, but it's about being okay and being happy with it. I don't know how that makes sense, but it does. If you've ever been through it, then you know what I mean. And after year 11, I think that was like the last time I was really unhappy with my weight. It's weird, like, thinking back now, I think that was the last time I really was upset with it. It's always, I mean, it's an upward kind of like process and something I'm working on all the time, but it is quite hard when you compare yourself. That's what makes it harder, when you compare yourself, especially if you compare yourself to, you know, for skinny black girls, there are two things. There's over here, there's the skinny white girl that you can't be because you are black, and then over here there's the curvy black girl that black people think is the norm and think is perfection, and there's what white people think is perfection. And us black skinny girls, we stand, or slim, I prefer slim, we stand in the middle. And that's not to say that both sides don't have their own struggles, but we also have our own struggles. And I really I struggled with my weight and accepting the fact that I'm never going to be Nicki Minaj. I'm just not. Like, I'm probably always going to be like a size 6, size 8, unless I have babies and that changes my body shape. But yeah, I'm always going to be a petite girl. Like, I'm always, like, especially like my top half is just so small. That's just how it is. And focusing on what makes you special, like, this stuff is great, but focusing on what's in here, like your gifts, and having time to get to know yourself and get to know what makes you click, getting to know your skills and what you want to do with your life. For me, that healed the heartbreak and the low self-esteem and the low confidence, and that kind of gave me confidence in my ability and in my inward beauty. So that's definitely my advice to anyone who's kind of going through this. I do know, like, a lot of people struggle with the opposite, which is obviously they find it very difficult to lose weight. And if you want any suggestions of who to watch, I would say Gracie, Francesca and Scolodondo. Yeah, a great ending to this story is last week, really weird, I realised I gained a stone. Like, I'm 9 stone now, and I'm just so, like, I'm so happy. But I'm not obsessed with it, and that's the great freedom of it, is being happy with your weight. Yeah, being happy with your weight and not obsessed by it. I think that's, for me, what's helped me. And what's helped me even more is just knowing my gifts and knowing what I have to give to the world is far more important than what I look like. And that's what makes you special. That's what makes you stand out. There are thousands of girls with the same body shape as me. There are thousands of girls with the same body shape as Nicki Minaj. But each of us have something different and unique to contribute to the world. And that's what makes us so beautiful. But yes, thank you guys for watching this. And if you did enjoy this, please do subscribe. And yeah, thank you for watching. Bye.